You know what's fascinating about watching tech giants panic? They never admit they're panicking. They issue carefully worded statements about listening to user feedback. They talk about iterative improvements and customer-focused innovation. But behind the scenes, complete chaos. And right now, Microsoft is experiencing that chaos at a level they haven't seen since Windows Vista. Bill Gates, who officially stepped away from Microsoft years ago, who's supposed to be focused on his foundation and global initiatives, suddenly shows up at Microsoft headquarters in Redmond. Not for a casual visit, for emergency meetings. Multiple sources confirmed he's been in talks with Satya Nadella and the Windows division leadership. Why? Because Windows 11's recall feature didn't just fail. It triggered something Microsoft never expected: mass uninstalls. People aren't just disabling the feature. They're rolling back entire operating systems, wiping Windows 11 off their machines, going back to Windows 10, switching to Linux, buying Macs. This isn't a minor PR problem. This is an existential threat to Windows. And if you want to understand how tech companies destroy themselves from within, hit subscribe right now, because what you're about to see is a masterclass in corporate self-destruction. Let's start with what actually happened. April 2024. Microsoft announces recall. They're positioning it as revolutionary. The future of personal computing. It's an AI-powered feature that continuously takes snapshots of everything you do on your computer, every website you visit, every document you open, every message you type. All of it captured, analyzed, and stored locally so you can search through your entire digital history using natural language. Sounds convenient, right? You could search, "Show me that email about the budget from Tuesday," and Recall would find it instantly. Microsoft's marketing team is thrilled. They're calling it photographic memory for your PC. Satya Nadella himself demos it on stage. The audience claps politely. Tech journalists write their previews. Everything seems fine. Then the security researchers get their hands on it, and within 48 hours, the entire thing explodes. Kevin Beaumont, a cybersecurity expert with decades of experience, tears it apart publicly. He shows that Recall stores everything in a plain-text SQLite database, not encrypted, not protected, just sitting there on your hard drive. Any malware that gets onto your computer, any program with local access, any person who physically accesses your machine, they can read everything. Every password you typed, every credit card number you entered, every private conversation, every medical record you viewed, everything, sitting there, completely exposed. The security community loses their minds. We're talking about people who spend their careers finding vulnerabilities, and they're saying this is the single worst security design they've ever seen in a major operating system. It's not a bug that slipped through testing. It's fundamentally flawed by design. Microsoft built a comprehensive surveillance and data collection system, then failed to secure it. Troy Hunt, who runs Have I Been Pwned and tracks data breaches globally, calls it a goldmine for attackers. He demonstrates how trivial it would be to extract recall data. We're talking minutes, not hours. A basic script could pull your entire digital life. Alex Stamos, former chief security officer at Facebook and Yahoo, says shipping this feature in its current state would be criminally negligent. He's not exaggerating. We're talking about HIPAA violations, GDPR violations, countless regulatory frameworks worldwide that prohibit storing sensitive data without proper encryption and access controls. Microsoft just built a feature that violates all of them simultaneously. The backlash is immediate and massive. Privacy advocates start organizing boycotts. The Electronic Frontier Foundation issues a statement condemning Recall as fundamentally incompatible with user privacy. European regulators announce they're investigating whether it complies with GDPR. UK's Information Commissioner's Office says they're seeking urgent clarification from Microsoft. This isn't a vocal minority complaining on Reddit. This is international regulatory bodies threatening action. And Microsoft's initial response makes everything worse. They issue a statement saying Recall is designed with privacy in mind, that data never leaves your device. that users have full control. They completely miss the point. The problem isn't that data goes to the cloud. The problem is that it exists at all, completely unprotected, waiting to be stolen. Security experts respond with screenshots showing exactly how vulnerable the data is. They're not theoretical attacks. They're working exploits. The pressure becomes unbearable. Microsoft delays the recall rollout. It was supposed to ship with new Copilot Plus PCs in June 2024. They push it back indefinitely. Then they announce changes. Recall will be opt-in instead of opt-out. The database will be encrypted. Biometric authentication will be required to access it. They're scrambling to fix fundamental design flaws after the product was already announced, already marketed, already promised to hardware partners. But here's what Microsoft doesn't understand. The damage is done. Users now know what Microsoft wanted to do. They wanted to record everything. They wanted AI watching every action. They only added encryption and authentication after they got caught. The trust is broken. And once trust is broken with your operating system, the thing that controls your entire digital life, you don't just disable a feature, you leave. Michael Richardson is a financial analyst in New York. He works with confidential merger and acquisition data, NDAs, insider information, materials that could move stock prices. He's been using Windows since Windows 95. Every computer he's owned ran Windows. When Recall got announced, he didn't think much of it. Then he read Kevin Beaumont's analysis. He realized if Recall was running on his work laptop, it would be creating a permanent record of legally protected information. Even if he disabled it, how could he trust it was actually off? How could he trust Microsoft wasn't collecting that data anyway? His firm has strict information security requirements. They can't risk it. Within 2 weeks, his entire company switched to Mac. 340 employees, all new hardware. Cost $1.2 million. They had to do it because Microsoft proved they couldn't be trusted with sensitive data. That's happening across enterprises globally. It's not individuals making emotional decisions. It's risk management teams calculating that Windows 11 with Recall is an unacceptable security liability. Insurance companies are getting involved. Cybersecurity insurance policies specifically exclude coverage if companies use software with known vulnerabilities. Recall, even in its revised form, is being classified as a known vulnerability. Companies that deploy it might lose their coverage. So IT departments are blocking Windows 11 updates entirely. They're staying on Windows 10, paying Microsoft for extended security updates. Because upgrading to Windows 11 now carries insurance implications. Microsoft created a feature so problematic that it's affecting corporate insurance policies. Let that sink in. And it gets worse for Microsoft, because Recall isn't just a privacy disaster. It reveals Microsoft's entire strategy. They're not building Windows to serve users anymore. They're building Windows to extract data. Every feature they add, every update they push, it's about collecting more information, feeding their AI models, building detailed profiles. Recall is just the most obvious example. But look at the broader pattern. Windows 11 requires a Microsoft account for setup. No local accounts allowed in the Home Edition. Why? Because Microsoft needs your identity tied to your usage data. They need to track you across devices, across sessions, building a permanent profile. The Start menu shows ads. File Explorer shows ads. Your operating system, the software you paid for through your hardware purchase, is advertising to you. Why? Because Microsoft is treating Windows like a free service supported by ads, except you paid for it. OneDrive constantly nags you to upgrade storage, to sync more files, to give Microsoft more data. Even if you don't use OneDrive, it's running in the background, checking, monitoring, waiting for you to save something it can upload. Every search you do in the Start menu goes through Bing, sending your queries to Microsoft servers. They claim it's to provide better results. Really? You're searching for an app installed on your own computer and Microsoft needs to know about it? Copilot is integrated at the OS level, watching what you're doing so it can offer suggestions. Even when you're not using it, it's there, monitoring, waiting. Telemetry is mandatory. You can't turn it off completely. You can reduce it to basic, but Microsoft still collects data about your hardware, your usage patterns, your errors, your feature adoption. They know everything about how you use your computer. Recall was supposed to be the crown jewel of this strategy, the ultimate data collection tool. Record everything, analyze it with AI, use it to train models, use it to serve ads, use it to push subscriptions. But they pushed too far. They revealed the endgame too clearly. Users saw what Microsoft actually wants, complete surveillance of your digital life. And they rebelled. Sarah Chen runs a small graphic design studio in San Francisco. 6 employees, all creative professionals. They've been Windows users forever. Adobe Creative Suite, all the standard tools. When Recall got announced, Sarah started researching. She found out about the telemetry, the forced Microsoft accounts, the ads in File Explorer. She realized Windows wasn't working for her anymore. It was working for Microsoft, using her hardware, her bandwidth, her time. She spent a month testing alternatives. Her team switched to Mac, all new iMacs and MacBooks. Cost? $28,000. Adobe runs perfectly. Everything they need works. They don't miss Windows at all. Actually, they prefer Mac now. No ads, no forced updates at random times. No Microsoft account syncing things they don't want synced. Microsoft lost a lifelong customer and $28,000 in ecosystem lock-in because they got greedy. Her studio is never going back. That story is repeating millions of times. Small businesses, freelancers, home users, anyone who values privacy. They're leaving, not threatening to leave. Actually leaving. Linux desktop market share hit 4.5% in November 2024. That doesn't sound like much until you realize it was 2.9% a year earlier. That's 55% growth in 1 year. And it's accelerating. Linux Mint downloads increased 340% year over year. Ubuntu desktop installations are up 280%. Pop! OS, a gaming-focused Linux distribution, saw 420% growth. These aren't marginal increases. This is explosive growth driven by Windows refugees. And these users aren't coming back. Once someone learns Linux, realizes it respects their privacy, realizes it doesn't show ads or force updates, or require accounts, they don't return to Windows. Microsoft is losing them forever. Mac sales tell the same story. Apple's Mac revenue in Q4 2024 was up 39% year over year, the highest growth rate in over a decade. Tim Cook mentioned in the earnings call that they're seeing unprecedented Windows switchers. He didn't elaborate because he's smart enough not to gloat publicly, but the numbers speak for themselves. People are buying Macs specifically to escape Windows. And here's what's terrifying Microsoft leadership. These aren't just home users. These are developers, IT professionals, tech-savvy users who influence entire organizations. When a senior developer switches to Mac, they advocate for Mac across their team. When an IT director switches to Linux, they start testing it for corporate deployment. Microsoft is losing the influencers, the evangelists, the people who made Windows the default choice. The rebellion is coming from inside their core user base. James Patterson is a software engineer at a Fortune 500 company. He's been writing code on Windows for 15 years. Visual Studio, all the Microsoft development tools. When Recall got announced, he started questioning everything. If Microsoft would ship something this privacy invasive, what else are they collecting? He switched his personal computers to Linux, started using VS Code on Ubuntu, realized everything he needed worked perfectly. He talked to his team about it. 5 developers switched. They talked to other teams. More developers switched. Within 6 months, 40% of the engineering department was on Linux. The company is now evaluating a full migration. Microsoft lost developer mindshare in a Fortune 500 company because of Recall. Those developers build products used by millions. They're going to target Linux now, not Windows. That's how ecosystems die. Bill Gates knows this. He's seen it before. He watched IBM lose their dominance. He watched Netscape collapse. He watched BlackBerry disappear. Once you lose developer support, once you lose user trust, you can't recover. That's why he's involved now. He doesn't care about day-to-day Microsoft operations anymore, but he cares about legacy. Windows is his legacy, and watching it crumble because of catastrophic decisions is intolerable. Sources close to the meetings say Gates was furious. Not publicly, never publicly, but in closed-door sessions, he demanded answers. Who approved shipping recall without proper encryption? Who thought opt-out was acceptable for a feature this invasive? Who signed off on marketing this as revolutionary without stress testing the privacy implications? The answers exposed deep dysfunction in the Windows division. Recall was pushed by the AI team. They're under immense pressure to justify Microsoft's $13 billion investment in OpenAI. They need AI features deployed everywhere to show investors the money is being used. So they built Recall, focused entirely on the AI capabilities, and ignored the privacy implications. The security team raised concerns during internal reviews. They documented the vulnerabilities. They recommended encryption and opt-in by default. They were overruled by leadership, who wanted to ship fast and impress during the keynote. The privacy team was barely consulted. They saw the feature days before announcement, too late to make fundamental changes. They raised alarms. They were told it would be addressed in future updates. This is how tech companies fail, not from external competition, from internal dysfunction. Teams competing for resources and recognition, shipping features to hit deadlines rather than meet user needs, ignoring warnings because acknowledging problems would delay launches. Microsoft stopped asking whether they should build something. They only asked whether they could build it. Recall is the result. Technically impressive, fundamentally flawed, catastrophically damaging, and now Microsoft is trying to fix it. They're adding encryption, biometric authentication, making it opt-in. They're running new security audits. They're meeting with privacy advocates. They're issuing apologies. But users aren't buying it. The fixes prove that the original design was unacceptable. If encryption and opt-in are necessary now, they were necessary from the beginning. Microsoft is only adding them because they got caught. Emma Rodriguez is a journalist in Madrid. She covers politics and corruption. Her sources trust her with sensitive information. Whistleblowers, leaked documents, confidential meetings. She's used Windows for 20 years. When Recall was announced, she immediately understood the implications. Any feature that records everything is incompatible with source protection. Even if she disables it, even if Microsoft adds encryption, she can't trust it. Governments could compel Microsoft to provide access. Hackers could find vulnerabilities. The existence of the feature is the problem, not just its implementation. She switched to Linux with full disk encryption and open source software. She can audit the code. She knows exactly what's running. Microsoft lost her forever because they built a journalist's nightmare into their OS. So they're stuck in the worst middle ground. Recall is indefinitely delayed, sort of improved, vaguely promised for the future. It's not here but not canceled. It's Schrodinger's feature, existing in a superposition of states until Microsoft decides what to do. And while they waffle, users are leaving. The internal debates are brutal. The AI team argues Recall is essential for competing with Google and Apple in AI. They say canceling it admits defeat. The security team argues shipping it as designed would have been catastrophic. They're vindicated by the backlash, but frustrated they were ignored initially. The Windows team argues the entire thing has damaged Windows 11 adoption and set them back years in market share goals. They're angry at the AI team for pushing a feature without considering the consequences. Leadership is trying to mediate, but there's no good solution. Someone has to take the blame, and nobody wants to be the person who killed Windows. Bill Gates is watching this implosion and seeing the company he built tear itself apart over a feature that never should have existed. He's giving advice, but he's not in charge anymore. Satya Nadella is. And Nadella is a cloud-first CEO. He cares about Azure, about Office 365, about enterprise subscriptions. Windows is a legacy product in his view. Important, but not the future. That mindset is exactly what created the Recall disaster. When Windows is treated as a legacy product, when it's seen as a vehicle to push cloud services rather than a product that must serve users, you get decisions like Recall. You get features designed to extract data for AI training. You get mandatory Microsoft accounts. You get ads in File Explorer. You get an operating system optimized for Microsoft's business goals, not user needs. And users are rejecting it. Windows 11 adoption is stalling. As of January 2025, it's at 34% market share among Windows devices. Windows 10 is at 61%, even though support officially ended. Think about that. Users are running an unsupported operating system because they'd rather risk security vulnerabilities than upgrade to Windows 11. That's not normal resistance to change. That's active rejection. Microsoft thought they could force adoption by ending Windows 10 support. They thought users would have no choice. They were wrong. Users are choosing Linux, they're choosing Mac, they're choosing Chrome OS, they're choosing anything but Windows 11. And Microsoft can't stop it because the fundamental product is flawed. It's not a marketing problem. You can't advertise your way out of users not trusting you. It's not a features problem. Adding more features doesn't matter if the core experience is user hostile. It's a philosophical problem. Microsoft needs to decide whether Windows serves users or serves Microsoft. Right now, it serves Microsoft, and users are leaving because of it. David Kumar is an IT administrator for a school district in Texas, 2,400 computers across 14 schools, all running Windows 10. He's been planning the Windows 11 migration for 2 years. Hardware upgrades, compatibility testing, teacher training. He had a whole timeline. Then recall got announced. The school board held an emergency meeting. They discussed the privacy implications of software that records everything students do, the legal liability of storing that data on school-owned devices, the potential for misuse, for hacks, for lawsuits. They voted unanimously to cancel the Windows 11 migration. They're moving to Chrome OS. Every computer getting replaced with Chromebooks, Google Workspace for Education instead of Microsoft 365. Cost: $840,000 for hardware and setup. Microsoft lost nearly $1 million in hardware sales, lost the entire district's Microsoft 365 subscriptions, and lost the next generation of students who would have grown up using Windows. Those students will learn on Chrome OS. They'll become comfortable with Google's ecosystem. When they enter the workforce, they'll advocate for what they know. Microsoft didn't just lose a customer, they lost the future. The cognitive dissonance is staggering. Microsoft spent decades building Windows on the promise of personal computing. Your computer, your data, your control. Now they're building features that fundamentally violate that promise, and their surprised users are angry. Bill Gates, in his meetings with leadership, reportedly emphasized returning to Windows' core values. Make the OS stable, fast, and respectful of users. Strip out the bloat, the ads, the invasive features. Rebuild trust through actions, not words. His advice is being met with resistance from the AI team and the services team. They argue modern operating systems must integrate AI and cloud services to compete. They say users will adapt once they see the benefits. They're in denial. Users have seen the benefits. They've decided the costs are too high. No amount of internal debate changes that reality. And while Microsoft debates, competitors are capitalizing. Apple's marketing for Mac emphasizes privacy. What happens on your iPhone stays on your iPhone. They're extending that to Mac. No surveillance, no ads, no forced cloud syncing. It's a direct attack on Windows 11. And it's working. Mac sales are surging. Linux distributions are marketing themselves as Windows without the Microsoft. No tracking, no accounts, no corporate agenda. Just an operating system that works for you. And it's resonating. Chrome OS for Enterprise is positioning as secure, manageable, and simple. No feature bloat, no privacy concerns, no unexpected surveillance tools. Straightforward computing. Microsoft's competitors aren't just offering alternatives, they're offering escapes, and users are taking them. The narrative has shifted from "why would I leave Windows" to "why would I stay?" That's the crisis. Microsoft lost the default position. For 30 years, Windows was the default. You needed specific reasons to choose something else. Now it's reversed. You need specific reasons to stay with Windows. Most users don't have those reasons anymore. Gaming used to be Windows exclusive. Now Proton lets you play Windows games on Linux. The Steam Deck proved Linux gaming is viable. Gamers are switching. Professional software used to be Windows exclusive. Now most Adobe alternatives run on Linux. DaVinci Resolve is native on Linux. Blender works perfectly. Creative professionals are switching. Enterprise management used to require Windows. Now cloud-based management works with any OS. Companies are switching. The moats protecting Windows are gone. And Microsoft is actively driving users away with hostile features like recall. It's corporate suicide in slow motion. Jennifer Torres is a small business owner in Miami. She runs a boutique marketing agency. 8 employees, all using Windows. She's been with Windows since Windows XP, loyal customer for 20 years. When recall got announced, she read about it. She felt betrayed. Microsoft, the company she trusted with her business, built spyware into the OS. Even if they fix it, even if they make it optional, the intent was clear. They wanted total surveillance. She can't trust them anymore. Her agency switched to Mac. All new hardware, all new workflows. It was expensive and disruptive, but she feels safe now. She knows Apple isn't recording everything. Microsoft lost 20 years of loyalty in one announcement. That's the cost of recall. Because doing all that would mean admitting their entire strategy for the past 5 years was wrong. It would mean reversing course completely. It would mean prioritizing users over data collection, over AI integration, over cloud services push. And that's not how modern Microsoft thinks. They're a cloud and AI company that happens to make an operating system. That's the fundamental problem. Bill Gates built Microsoft as a software company that served users. Buy Windows, own Windows, use Windows however you want. That philosophy is gone. Modern Microsoft wants to rent you software, collect your data, push subscriptions, integrate everything into their cloud ecosystem. Windows is just the vehicle. And users are rejecting the vehicle because they see the agenda. If you've made it this far, you understand what's really happening. This isn't just about one feature. It's about the soul of Windows. It's about whether your computer serves you or serves Microsoft. Right now, it serves Microsoft. And users are leaving because of it. Subscribe if you want to see how this ends because it's going to be spectacular. Microsoft either reverses course completely and saves Windows, or they keep pushing and watch it collapse. There's no middle ground. The next 2 years will determine whether Windows remains relevant or becomes a cautionary tale about corporate greed destroying beloved products. And based on current trajectory, it's not looking good for Microsoft.